Hey guys, so last video we went over creating the Apollonian gasket, which is recursive circle or sphere packing, whether you're going the 2D route or the 3D route. And we came up with some art examples on what you could do with that. So we have 3D, we have 2D examples, and so forth. And so there's a free file in that last video, so definitely check that out. And then I also went over just some quick art examples. And here's another example of like took and did with it. So you can do all sorts of fun, crazy stuff with this. So check that video out too. This video, we are going to create recursive pyramid fractals. So same sort of thing. This was recursive circles or spheres. We're going to create recursive pyramids. I wanted to create the recursive pyramids in a way that used very little code. So really there's only one expression. Everything else is procedural. So it's very simple compared to other setups. So let's take a quick look at what we're going to be doing. So essentially this is what we're going to be making, and you can continue to make this larger and bigger and so forth. With this example, if we click on this, I'm just going to run through this just so you can see kind of the concept of what we're going to be creating and what the strategy is. So we're going to start off with the pyramid. We're going to delete everything but the bottom face. Delete the bottom face but keep the points. Then copy that pyramid to each one of those points, and then merge that back onto our original pyramid. Then we want a brand new pyramid that is the same size as our new pyramids there. Delete everything but the bottom, keep the points, copy that feedback iteration to each one of those points, and then merge it, and then so forth. And you can see it's the same strategy over and over and over, and we can go down as many times as we want or as much as your machine can handle. So let's go ahead and jump right into that. So I'm going to come back up here to the OBJ level. By the way, I'll give you a file for this too, so you can just use it. But if you want to know how to set this up, that's what I'm going to go over right now. For those of you that are new to Houdini, we're just going to hover our mouse down here in this window, click Tab, and that will allow us to start typing whatever node that we want. So I know that I want a geometry node. So I'm going to start typing that. I can see it, and it's highlighted, so I'm just going to click Enter. Drop that down, and then I'm going to double click to dive into that. Okay, the next node that I want, Tab, and I want a platonic. So I'm going to start typing that. I can see the platonic solid. Click that, drop that down, and then I'm just going to click F to frame that up, and we can see we got a pyramid. And from here, I want to make sure that the top of our platonic is at our world 0, 0. So the way I'm going to do that is I'm going to hover over radius, right click, copy parameter, go to our position, right click, paste relative reference, click at the end of that, multiply that by a -1, and then that'll drop our pyramid right there. So now if we scale this up, you can see that that scales from our world 0, 0. Okay, cool. So now we need to create a loop so that we can loop through this and do some iterative stuff. Tab for each. There's a few different ones we want to do for each number. Let's drop that down. Connect that up. I'm going to pull this down and create some more room. Okay, so each time this iterates through, I want it to not start with this. I want it to start with how this left off. So we need to make a couple changes. So I'm going to select this first node, change this from fetch input, which would be that platonic, and do fetch feedback. Grab the last node and then change that to feedback each iteration. So now we have this for each count node. So what this will do is it creates some detail attributes, and we can see them here. We're really concerned with the iteration, and what that means is every time this loops through, that iteration number is going to go up by 1. And we can use that value, whether it's iteration 1 or 2 or 3, we can use that value and scale up this platonic. If you recall, we got a new pyramid every single time. Grabbed the bottom face, deleted the face, but kept the points. So we need to be able to grow that pyramid every time that this loops through. So the way we're going to do that, grab this output, drop down a transform node, and on this scale, we're going to get rid of that 1, and we're going to type detail, open parenthesis, quote, period, period, forward slash, and then we want to call that node. So we're going to type that name in there, that for each count one, and actually I can see it as I start typing it. It's right there, so I'm going to double click on it, close quotes, comma, new open quote, and we're going to type iteration. Close the quote, comma, 0, and close parentheses. That's the only little bit of code, a simple expression that we are going to type. Everything else is procedural and node-based. So I'm going to click on this. By the way, if you click on this, you can see the code, or you can see the number that we're getting from the result. We're just going to see 0 at the moment, but just know that that works as it loops through. That's going to get bigger and bigger and bigger. Okay, cool. Inside this for each loop, I want to drop down a null. I tend to like to do that. Drag it on that wire right there, and I'm going to rename that to start. I'm going to click C to bring up my color palette, and I want to make that black. C to make my color palette go away. And then from here, what I want to do is I want to go ahead and delete everything but the bottom face. So I'm going to drag that bottom output and tab and start typing delete. On this delete node, I want to delete by the normal angle. So I'm going to click this tab normal, click enable. We want to put 0 for everything but the Y value. We want that to be -1, and then we want to bring that down to something really low. So I'm going to go to 0. And then we're going to click merge. So tab and merge. Drag that onto there. Connect that up. And then let's turn that eyeball on so we can see what's going on. I'm going to turn off my grid for a moment. And actually, you can see each pyramid that it's making as it grows. And we have deleted the bottom face on each one of those, except for the one that we merged back in, the original guy. So this is working. So I'm going to come here to this delete because I just want to focus on one pyramid at a time. And so here we can see we've got this pyramid, but it's deleting the bottom face. I actually want to delete everything but the bottom face. What we need to do for that is I need to come and click on that node, and I want to change this operation, delete selected, to delete not selected. From there, I want to convert this face into just points, so getting rid of the face and keeping the points. So we're going to drop down and add node, drag that onto there, turn the eyeball on for the add node, and we're going to check that delete geometry but keep points. The next thing that we want to do is we want to make a box. As this grows bigger and bigger, we want to make sure that there's no points in here. We're only getting these 3 points as we merge through all this. We just want to make sure that this stays nice and clean. So I'm going to click the output of this for each loop, tab and box. That's just going to make a box the size of our pyramid. Then we want to drop down a transform. For this transform, the box is going to be whatever the size that our pyramid is. So I want to grab any points that exist that are just inside of these, but I don't want to delete those. So I'm going to scale this down just a hair. So we're going to change that 1 to like 0.999, something like that, but it's not 1. It's just smaller than 1. So that'll create a box that's just inside those points, which is what we want. So if there's any other points, it'll delete them. From here, let's make a group out of that. So we're going to group, drop down a group there, connect that add to there, and then this transform to there. And we're going to name this group node. We're going to name that interior. You could name the group here. So selecting that group, you can name the group whatever you want to here. So I want it to be called interior. So I could type interior here, but I tend to like to be able to just name things here and for this to inherit that. So for that, we're just going to do $, capital O and S. That stands for operator strings. That's just going to call whatever this name is, and it's just going to reference it in. Again, you can just type interior there if you want, but I tend to like to do things like that. Okay, so we're working with points, so we want to change this to point, and I want to come down here to keep in bounding region, and I want to change this from bounding sphere to bounding object, which is this box that we scale down just a little bit. It's going to create a box that just comes just inside those points, and so if there's any points that ever pop up, it's going to select them, and we're going to create a group out of those. So I'm going to click blast, drop down our blast node, connect that to our interior, click this drop down, and I want to delete any interior points. So I'm just going to put interior in there. So again, if any points pop up in the interior, we'll create a group that'll select those, and then we'll delete them, leaving us just the 3 triangle points. Okay, perfect. So from here, we only have one last step, and that is to copy our pyramid to each one of those points. So let's drop down a copy to points, and we're going to connect it up like that. Actually, we don't want to connect it right there. So I'm going to hold Y and cut that. I want to bring that merge down, and I want to cut this. For this copy to points, I want to connect the start to that first input. And then the copy to points here is what I want to connect there. I had connected the pyramid up so we could see how we were deleting faces and that sort of stuff. But really, that's not what we want to be merging. We want to be copying this pyramid to these points that we are creating. Now, if we click that, we can see we're getting something like that. Cool. All right, let's merge that. Turn on our for each. And now you can see we're starting to get something. So now if we click this for each, and I'm going to hover over this, scale this up by 10, you can see what's happening. And you can push this by as much as you want or as much as your machine can handle. So try it one more time. So I went up to like 80. And here you can see we're getting recursive pyramids. And this is very clean. These are tiny little, very clean pyramids. We end up with a Sierpinski pyramid. And you can continue to push that. Oh, and again, I'll drop a file for this in the description. So use the description for a link to download this file. So if you just want to grab it and use it, you can do that. But if you want to make your own, you've seen the method. So anyways, hopefully this has been helpful. And yeah, hope to see you guys next time.